Hey, I just wanted to show you some fun stuff you can do using PowerPoint and you can do this in quite a quick way. So I wanted to show you, right, so first of all, let's start with how I built this shape, because this shape is how I've created everything else that you can see here. And I've done some really wacky stuff, like this, where, woo, or like this, which is really crazy. But if you screenshot these, they look kind of cool. So they look a bit like that, right? So you can kind of like play around and just see what you can make. So that is actually just an image because I screenshotted it and then cropped it. And that's an image. So you could even do, not with that one, but you could do, maybe do a stop. Oh no, those are all the same. Okay, these ones are different. So you could maybe do a little animation with the images themselves, like a stop motion. But yeah, how did I get from that, from sort of this thing to there? So what I did was I made a square, which is actually 12 inches because I was thinking, oh, I want it to be like an album. And then I really just, so it's just two circles, and then I copied them and rotated them so you'll get a little click when it rotates to the right, to a spot, and then I just do it again, another 15, and then again, and I did it all the way around. In fact, I'll probably do that a bit faster. And then what I did was, once I got all the way around, I centered it, and so you will get, in fact, you can probably do it with all of these. I haven't tried that before. You will if you group it. Okay, let's not do that. So you can kind of, you'll end up with a shape, a circle like that is all, you'll end up with this, right, from there to there. Then, so you end up with sort of bicycle wheel. It's really nice and symmetrical and gorgeous, perfect. And then what you can do is make a new slide, copy paste, and you can just shrink these down a bit, make some more, you can really go nuts with these, just add more. They're not heavy on the software either, like, because they're just vector shapes, so you can just muck around with these. It's not gonna crash your computer. This is way more fun because I use Illustrator as well, and it's actually way more fun than Illustrator because of this little baby. So there's this tool in under shape format, right? There's a tool here which looks like a weird little dotted, don't know what that's called, rhombus or something. And then basically it gives you all of these, right? And check this, this is really quite magical. So it will change all of them all together. This is the beauty of PowerPoint. This is what I love about PowerPoint. It just is quite insane. Like this one function, I just got super excited about it because it's actually really, it's very powerful. If you use Illustrator a lot, you'll realize, this is super, super cool. So the other thing, so if you have to, if you want to change a format shape, right? Okay, so you want this little box thing up here. So you get the fill. So you can fill this with patterns or stuff, right? These things. Quite funky, little Vans type checkers. Or you can fill it with picture stuff, right? And if it's grouped, if all these shapes are grouped, it'll place the picture as if those are like a clipping path in Illustrator. So it's kind of like it'll spread it across the whole of the group. If you ungroup it, it doesn't do that. It kind of puts the picture into each shape. If you do rotate with shape, it'll do something different as well. Like, you can muck around with this, but this is kind of cool, right? Like, that is already kind of looking quite funky. You don't want to do these texture things, they're kind of ugly. So you can take another one, picture fill, ungroup it, you get more pattern. You could offset that by just to get something slightly different looking, and then maybe just regroup it, and it doesn't change what you've done, like it doesn't put it back to it being a. So you could put more, you could change the picture. Let me see, I've got like some weird images of fish in here. That's very weird. I've got a bit of a thing about like looking at underwater stuff in the middle of the night. I find it very comforting. Okay, let's have some coral in there just to get some weirdness in there. Let's ungroup it, and then you've got like more of this like cool stuff. And then what you can do, so you can just like build this up. That's added that, some more of that, and then some picture stuff. Like ungroup it, and then group it again. And then go and get something. Don't know. Stuff. Oh, that's a nice colour. Some whales in there. And you're just kind of like seeing, you're just having a bit of a play, right? That again. See what happens when you tile it. I like the pattern that you get. It's kind of interesting. So this one looks like it's something weird behind it. So let's not offset that. Okay. So you can just center all of these to the middle. As long as it says align to slide, then you can align it in the middle, right? So then the cool thing you can do that's super fun, if everything is now grouped. Oh, that one isn't. That's the one that isn't. Right. These ones are always grouped. So you can just like, I was trying to make a zoetrope, but I kind of gave up, it wasn't working, and then I got a bit excited about what was working, which was just this mad kind of painterly stuff that was happening. So you could change these around a bit, so some are. So I'm just making this animation. I'm going to make this stuff animate. So it kind of is kind of interesting. Just going to put. I'm just going to put like repeat. Yeah, repeat until next click. So it just basically keeps going until you tell it to stop. So you've got this kind of bizarre looking stuff happening. This one is still a bit weird, isn't it? Because it's not quite doing the repeat. Ah, this is a repeat. Okay. So then, so you do the tail as picture. So you've got this kind of weird offsettiness. Scale to, maybe we should scale it to 500 or something. Oops. No, it'll only let you do it to 50. Okay. Maybe repeat it with a shape. Oh, and then group it again. So we just see what happens when you do that. Oh yeah, broken the animation. So we just need to put the animation on it again. So next click. Okay. You've got this kind of weird thing happening, which is kind of fun, right? I mean, this isn't everyone's cup of tea, right? This is just like me messing around and whatever you want to do. But if you want to screenshot it, like then you can see, all right, that's what's happening when you do that. Okay, and then what you can do is when you get to the background, so you can format, see all this white space, you can put a pattern in there, you could make that all dotty, or you could do some weird stuff like, oh, that's quite cool actually. And it just gives it, I don't know, it reminds me of something like New Order, maybe Joy Division-ish, old kind of 80s new wave kind of stuff. I don't know, yeah. Don't like that as much, don't know why. But it's kind of a fun, it never like translates that well when you get to that. Or you can add like more, we can duplicate that, and then so you say keep source formatting, so it keeps that background. Or what you can do is you can do format background and then picture fill, right? So then it just picks up basically whatever the last picture was. It's so like randomly clunky, it's quite fun. So it's put in this like image of a painting that I like, it was just sort of some splodges of oil paint. So let's see what that does now, just for a laugh. Funky. Kind of messy. Then you can add more, and you can just keep going. Keep source formatting. And what's quite fun is if you kind of like add even more and just say you want to do I think it's kind of interesting when you pull them out from being symmetrical and then you get all this kind of interaction of the different stuff. If you see what I mean, like that then becomes kind of quite fun. The other thing you can do that's kind of fun is, remember you've got this shape thing, right? So everything's like this weird shape. So you can change that shape to like being an arrow, or and this one you could change that to being little squares, or yeah. So you've got this, it's just a big kind of toy box really, like a bit like having a, oh, I quite like what's happening over there. That's kind of fun. Like, I didn't really mean that, but it's kind of interesting. But it's just a very, like, quick, fun thing to play with, really. This one's really pretty. It's quite a shimmery kind of vibe. This one's quite nice. This one does like weird things with your colours. This one's getting quite crazy. So this was all layers, and then I changed a lot of the shapes. So that's kind of fun. And then this one is kind of a bit similar to the previous one. But I just, some of those ones I made them very fast so that it actually does start to do what a zoetrope does, which is trick your eye into thinking that you're, it's kind of like stop motion. So if you look at a zoetrope, if you look at a zoetrope vinyl, once it hits to a certain revolutions per minute, it begins to trick your eye into believing that the shapes are kind of moving. And with this one, that's what's happening here. It's starting to do that. I think it was 0.13 of a second to get this to kind of trick your eye, but it doesn't quite do it perfectly enough. I just got a bit frustrated with it. I was like tweaking it, I couldn't get it to work, and I was like, this isn't, like, it's kind of fun anyway, so I was like, I'll just bash around with this and see what happens. So this one is kind of, yeah, I just kept layering and layering and layering, and I was like, whoa, this looks like something, like a real kind of weird trip. Or I don't know. And then this one looks a bit kind of like an abstract painting, some sort of Jackson Pollock sped up. I don't know, gone crazy in his studio, or like a dream that Jackson Pollock might have if he was stuck in front of PowerPoint for a decade. So yeah, and I find it kind of fun that this is, this is like, I don't know, because I have to, like, I use this software a lot for my bread and butter money, bills, pay, it's kind of fun to just play with it in a very like free way, if that makes sense. Because I design templates for big corporate clients, and I'll do pitch presentations, to win new business for big companies like ad agencies or sportswear brands or tech companies. And so it's quite an intense, and it's a little bit dull and very corporate. And then this is more like, okay, she's a little bit crazy too, So yeah, this is like the opposite of that. So that's why it's kind of fun, and it's very free. So I'm not like, I think that's what I like. That's kind of why I liked PowerPoint in the first place, was I never really took it very seriously. Like, nobody takes PowerPoint very seriously if you're a designer. If you're a designer and you tell people that you design in PowerPoint, they tend to think that you're not really a designer. Like, they'll laugh at you. They'll laugh in your face. So, and I'm an illustrator, and I kind of like that subversiveness of the messing around and actually creating something that's kind of beautiful, because I'm thinking actually that is kind of beautiful. Like, if I go and have a look at that in my screenshots, you'll get to see my really messy desktop. Oh no, my desktop. Okay. So that looks kind of cool, actually. And what I always think is, can I turn this into textile design? Because that's ultimately what I always do. And yeah, that does look like something I could do something with. Maybe I'll change up the painting. I might actually make some painting like that so I can use them and it's kind of and scan it at high res and stuff. Sometimes the issue with PowerPoint is trying to get it to export at decent res, but that's 7.3 megs, so it's not too bad. It's not very high, but it's not totally low either. So if I take that into, say, Photoshop, just to see what happens, yeah, it's not too bad actually. It's quite a lot of stuff to play with there. Well, let's have a play with it and see what it looks like if you, because I don't really, I'm not doing anything with the color while I'm working. Like I'm just sort of throwing stuff at it in a very abstract way. So if I then take this and let's see, let's use a channel mixer or something like that. It's quite pretty actually, isn't it? I love these kind of yellow and purple colours. Because I lived in Leith when I was a kid and we had sari shops everywhere, and I loved the sari shops because basically Leith was very grey, and I'd moved from the countryside which was all green, and sort of there was a lot of stuff to look at, and I was just like, oh, this is so grey, everything's grey. But these sari shops were just amazing. You'd see these girls walking down Leith Walk looking like magical creatures from a fairy tale, you know, 1001 Nights or something. So I have a bit of a soft spot for it. As you can kind of tell, like if you can imagine that on a sari, that would kind of work quite well. I have to try and get rid of the black, but that's quite nice. Like it's kind of interesting. So yeah, so this is like a kind of a way that I work. It's rather messy, but it's sort of digital mess, and it's, I kind of find it quite, I think because I can make everything move, that makes it super fun for me, because I'm thinking, because I love that kind of, it reminds me of going to Fabric in the 2000s. It reminds me of Glastonbury, or walking through London, and everything's very intense, and yeah, it's, or listening to like hardcore techno in the 90s, or it's kind of got this like, yeah, fun. Or actually it reminds me of like walking through the forest that I live near now and looking at the leaves when they're all on the ground, and seeing the light coming through the leaves, and that intent, just there's so much stuff. I'm like, there's so much stuff here. It's really nice. So, and that kind of feeling of there just being so much activity in a forest as well. That's kind of, yeah, there's probably quite a lot of that about this kind of feeling as well. That's a bit hypnotic and interesting, but it's not, I quite like it because it's not